All right, folks. First time with the smart board. Now we're talking about constituencies. And what do I mean by that? Constituency is, and let me write that term. Constituency. It's always hard to write when you're at the board. Constituency, we use this term, stand on this side, we use this term to reflect the relationship between elected officials or even governmental officials, even non-elected officials, and the people that they represent. So whoever they represent, that is the constituency of the government official. Political scientists have noticed that there are effectively 4 constituencies for an elected official, and this is going to be very relevant for you. That first constituency is literally the population. Of whatever district that, whatever district or government that representative or elected official represents. So, perfect example, Donald Trump, he's the president of the United States. So every resident of the United States, every citizen at the very least of the United States, is a constituent of Donald Trump. Getting even more granular, justice of the peace. Every constituent or every resident of that district that is served by that justice of the peace is a constituent of that justice of the peace. So that whole population, kids to the most aged, everyone is in that constituency. But then you could take that another level down, and we call this VEP, or voting eligible population. All right, that stands for voting eligible. You could also break that down into voting age, but voting eligible recognizes that even if someone is of age, 18 and over, they still may be ineligible because of immigration status. They may have had their right to vote revoked by having a felony offense, things like that. So we strip it down to voting eligible population, which is almost always equal, or a little bit less than, the voting age population. All right? Beyond that, and these are the numbers that really start to matter for and especially an elected official, registered voters. It's very important that we recognize in this country that voting is a 2-stage act at the very least. Actually, I wrote that wrong. All right, let's do it this way. There we go. Boom. Registered voters. Voting is a 2-stage act at the very least. First, you have to register to vote. You have to tell the government that you are a citizen, and that you live in a certain place, so that the government can then put you on the official rosters of voters, so that you can then, on election day, go and cast your ballot. That's different than most every other country in the world. The United States is different than most every other country in the world in many aspects, including this one. In most other countries of the world, the government registers you through the census or whatever means that they have. They go out and find where you are, and then they put you on the ballot in that one place. That's not the case in this country. Recognizing the freedom of individuals, we say if you want to vote, you come tell us that you want to vote, and we will get you able to exercise that civil liberty, that civil right, literally, of being able to vote. But here's where the rubber starts to meet the road. The actual voters. And this is very important because in this country, the people that determine who wins an election, so whether Donald Trump won or lost, or whether any elected official wins or loses, is not the total population. It's not the eligible voters. It's not even those who registered to vote. It's those who actually, and here we use this word, turned out to vote. Turnout, voter turnout. Those who actually showed up on that particular election day or election season, if there's early voting, and actually cast a ballot. Those are the ones that matters. All right? And why is this important? Because for the most part, elected officials in this country have worked it out to where this analysis, this turnout, and amongst these actual voters works, and actually let me use a different color for that. works to their favor, so much so that we have a term that we call safe seat. What do we mean by that? It means that the demographics and the patterns in that district work in such a way, that electoral district works in such a way that that candidate, the incumbent, the person who already holds the office, is likely to always hold that office unless they do something drastically wrong. That the patterns work in the same way. A more fancy term we use for that is called incumbency advantage. Sorry, not getting that A to match up. Advantage. Incumbency advantage. So all that means, incumbent refers to the person who's actually sitting in that elected office seat. And the advantage is just a recognition of the fact that many of the things work in their favor, including the makeup of this district. You learned about redistricting and how elected officials can manipulate the mechanics of their district, the makeup of their district, to their advantage. Well, this is one of the results of that, that they get safe seats because the patterns tend to work in their favor. Now you may say, how in the world do they know, quote unquote, how people will vote and those tendencies? Well, yes, it is true that your actual vote choice on your ballots is secret in this country. No one knows who you actually voted for. But the fact that you voted, very much so public record. Very much so public record. And for that matter, in Texas, if you vote in the primary, because you can only vote in either the Democratic or the Republican primary, but by you voting in one of the primaries, the party is going to actually assume that you're a member of their party. And the elected officials will know that you voted in that primary, and you will start to receive the mailers and the publications and the things like that that come from that party and the candidates of that party based on the fact that you voted in the primary election. That's a Texas phenomenon. But yes, all over the country, candidates, elected officials, and those who want to be elected officials, they know who vote. They know exactly who votes, and they know who didn't vote. And they know who are registered to vote and who are not registered to vote, at least those lists that they can get from the census. All right? So much so that one of this incumbency advantage is so strong. So you got safe seats, you got incumbency advantage. Sorry about that. Didn't want to move that over here. Incumbency advantage. The advantage is so strong that most candidates don't even see competition because those who want to take their place wait until the incumbent is no longer on the ballot. They wait until there is what we call an open seat. Sorry about that, my E's are not closing. Open seat. All right? So they wait until no incumbent is on the ballot so that then everybody, or at least those who want to be elected, have a better shot because the incumbent has such an advantage. I'm going to lose if I go against him, so let me just wait until it's an open seat. And that's when they choose to run. That's when we see the most importance. Now, I mention all this because we tend to believe that it's not, that this part of the process is kind of set in stone, that we can't really affect this. And yes, we can. Why? Because yes, the elected official, all this happens, but we kind of think that the elected officials pay attention to one of two groups of people. Yes, they pay attention to their party, in the sense that one of the reasons why they're in a party is because of all the advantages that a party gives them in terms of running for election, and because the issues, the stance, the platform, as you all discovered, of that party and the elected officials' desire to implement those type of policies. But they also listen to party in the sense that they need to coalesce once they get in office with people in their party. And so yes, an elected official is going to, in their decision making, in the things that they do, they're going to represent the party. But there's another group that we often think that they're trying to represent, and that is donors. Because in this country, the government does not fund the campaigns, the electoral campaigns. That is the case in certain other countries, and it is the case in certain states and local races that chose to put money behind the election. But in this country, we don't do it. Candidates must raise the money themselves. And they tend to raise it from those who have it. And so they raise it from donors. And so we tend to think that candidates are going to pay attention to donors, and especially we think they're going to serve donors. And yes, there are a group of donors who give money to candidates based on the material interest that they have, based on the fact that they want to get something from that candidate, usually in terms of policy concessions, and we'll talk about interest groups next week. But yes, they give to candidates for that, and they give probably about a third of all candidate money. But there are others who give to candidates simply because of the issue stances that the candidates take. They give to the candidate because they want that candidate to get elected, because they want those issues, or at least their particular take on those issues, to be enacted. All right, and that's another third of all campaign contributions. And then lastly, we call this solidary. And it's just those friends and family of the actual candidates, those close contacts, again, those with money who can give that. But that's the other third of those who give. So one point that I'm trying to get across here is we think, and it's portrayed often, that candidates are just sold. They're sold out to those who will give them money. And yes, these are important. But again, they only represent about 1/3 of all the money that a candidate is going to raise. Another 2/3 comes from those who are not, quote unquote, on the take. And more importantly, candidates don't win election based on the money. We've studied election after election, and actually those who spend the most money, especially when it's outside of the averages of what is spent in the campaign, they tend to lose. And why? Because they are trying to buy an election. But the problem is you can't buy an election, because the election outcome is determined by the actual voters. It's determined by the turnout, those who show up. That's why interest groups, especially those savvy ones who really want to influence people in government, conduct what we're going to call, or what I call, an election strategy. And this is the assignment that you all have due this week for your term paper. You're going to pick an elected official that is a local elected official, state legislature, Texas legislature, or a local official in the sense of county, city, local government, that kind of thing. You're going to pick an elected official to do a voter analysis on, where you're literally going to try to identify the population of the elected official, their district. We're going to skip the voting eligible population. You could get that if you wanted, but it's almost always going to be somewhere around 75% of the total population, so it's not super critical. But if you can get the population, I'm going to show you how to get the registered voters, and then how to get the actual vote total, and then what to do with that. All right? So we're going to work through the example that I've been using so far for the term paper: food stamp programs, summer lunch program. I'm sorry, not food stamps. Summer food program through the local school districts, and we're going to pick one of the school board members, because a school district is a local government. It's autonomous. It's independent. That's why we say ISD, independent school district, meaning the city of Houston government doesn't control that school district, doesn't govern it. Harris County government doesn't control the school district. It is its own government with its own tax revenue. You pay property taxes to the schools, and it has its own governing board, the board what do they call it? Board of directors? School board. Thank you. That's the term. School board. So we're going to find all that information, and I'm going to show you how to do that election analysis. So stay tuned, or keep watching, because here we go. So the first thing you need to find out is who represents you on that school board. So again, I know that it's the school board. I've already done that work, so I need to find out who represents me. So I go to this website. It's hctax.net, hctax.net. Of course, you can search for it, Harris County votes. And using this form, you'll put in the street address, typically of your church or wherever your ministry is located, and then click submit. It will give you this information down here. So I find out that I am in, or at least my ministry is in, precinct 25. All of Harris County has been divided into small neighborhood-like precincts, and those precincts are then cobbled into different electoral districts. And I'm in a school board district, but I need to find out which school board district. So I click on info here, and it gives me all of my elected officials for that precinct. All right, so for my neighborhood, it gives me all the elected officials. What I'm looking for, because I'm looking at school board again, Houston Independent School District School Board, I'm looking here, Houston ISD position 4. All right, Houston ISD position 4. So first, you got to find out where you are. Go to hctax.net. You'll also find this on, and I gave you some resources on the on the assignment page of where you can find out that information. The Texas legislature has a Who Represents Me type of board or function as well. You can use that, and that will help get you there. But nevertheless, however you find that out, actually for that matter, if you look on your voter registration card, if you live in the district where or precinct where your ministry is, you can look on your voter registration card. It has all that information on your voter registration card. So nevertheless, all that information, if you had to look it up, you can find it this way. We got Houston ISD position 4. So knowing that, I'd go to the Houston ISD website to find out who is the board member for District 4. And here we go, Miss Jolanda Jones. So I am looking up Miss Jolanda Jones. Now what I want to do for this election assignment, I am trying to get back to this. I'm trying to get all of this information down about Jolanda Jones, and I'm especially trying to get down to this actual number, her actual votes, all right? But I need to start with the population. Now, school district is going to be one of the hardest ones because it's so small that a lot of people don't have the information out there about their population. If you have a school or you have a government, a local government that you're looking for, a local government elected official that you're looking for, and you're having trouble finding the population, email me, and I will help you find that information. Because where I had to go to find this information was to the U.S. Census. So I literally went to U.S. Census, factfindercensus.gov, or just put in census.gov, and I went to their profile of general population, and I put in the Houston Independent School District of Texas. Now this gives me the whole school district. I need to get down to District 9. But the whole district gives me 1.3 million people in all of HISD. I use a handy dandy calculator to figure out, divide that by 9, because I know based on the school board website, just to show it to you, I know based on the school board website there are 9 trustees. So looking at here, pulling up the calculator, I divide 1.3 million first by 7.75 or 75%, because notice a good 25 to 27% of the population of HISD are under 18, so they can't vote. So they don't matter to this discussion. So I first divided or multiplied them out, and then I divided that number by 9, and I got to about 109,500 people. All right? So that's the population. That's check mark number 1, the population. And really that's the population, that's the VEP technically, because I already canceled out all those who are younger than 18. But nevertheless, that's the first piece of information you're going to need on your assignment. Second piece of information is the registered voters. So to get that information, I go to, not here, I go to harrisvotes.gov, harrisvotes.com, sorry, and I go to the election results window, and I go to election archives. Election results window and then election archives. And what I'm looking for is the last competitive election for that elected official, for Jolanda Jones, Houston Independent School District, District 4. And I know that HISD, I did the research, I figured out, HISD holds its elections at the same time that the city of Houston holds its elections, which is to say in the odd numbered year that's after the presidential election, okay? So that was 2015. I'm sorry, not after the presidential election. Odd number year after the gubernatorial election. Hold on. Anyway, all that to say is, you don't need all the mechanism behind that, but all that to say is it was the November 2015 election, all right? Now, if this was a statewide race or even a county race, Harris County race, I would need to look for the primaries also, because remember what we said about safe seats. Oftentimes, when we talk about safe seats, we're really talking about the general election, because if the way that candidates tend to work it out, parties tend to work it out, they put the seat to be safe for their party not necessarily for the incumbent. The incumbent has to cultivate other things that give them the advantage over newcomers. But the party, in designing the district, is going to make it safe for a member of their party. So then where does the greatest competition often come from? From competitors within the party. And that election takes place during the primary. So if this were a Texas legislature or a Harris County election, then I would look to the primary as well as maybe the source of that greatest competition. But this is not. This is Houston ISD. I'm believing that it's officially nonpartisan. I'd have to look that up again. So I can simply go to that general election. So we're at November 2015. I click on the PDF. That gives me this form. And here I just did a search, find Yolanda, because that's a more unique number, and this thing has some like 37 pages on it, and I didn't want to look through all 37 pages. So just find Yolanda, there it is, and look at all this information down here. So I got all this information. Stop that now. There we go. I got all this information on Yolanda Jones. And so what am I looking for the assignment? I am looking for the registered voters and the actual turnout. Well, I have exactly that. It gives me the total number. Stop that. It gives me the. Go away. Let me just scroll up. There we go. Gives me the total registered numbers of voters for that district. So I already know I got 109,500 population, or voter eligible population, I should say. And then I know the number of registered voters. So 96,000. Pretty close. All right. Good number of registered voters in this district, active district. But then notice the turnout, the actual vote totals. Only 26,000 ballots were cast, only 27% turnout of the registered voters. That's not even of the voter eligible population. And then Yolanda Jones only won about 57% of that. She won 12,212 votes. Let's get this information down, because this is going to be very important. Because we don't count undervotes, because that's probably people, we don't know how they would have turned out. They basically made a mistake on their ballot, so we don't know what their intentions were. So let's take this 150 number. Let's do some calculations. We got 109,500 population. Let's keep flipping back and forth. We got registered voters. We got 96,000. I'm going to use rough numbers. We got 96,000 registered. We had 21,150 cast. That's the actual votes that were cast. And then she won how many of those votes? Give me back there. Nope, not you. You. She won 12,200. 12,220, but let's use round numbers, 12,200. She won 12,200 of those votes. Getting my handy dandy calculator over here. Let's find out what that percentage is, because this is very critical. She won 12,200 divided by 109,500. She won 11% of the vote. 11%. All right, I'll put 11.1. Why not? 11.1% of the vote is what it took for Yolanda Jones to win the Houston City Council race. That's not a lot. And really only 12,200 votes total. Why is that important? Because the last part of your analysis will be, how large is your ministry's network? And what I mean by that, literally, the population of people, the number of people that are connected to your ministry, whether it be your church. For example, I technically attend Houston's First Baptist Church. And if our downtown campus wanted to be a location where we're serving food during the summer, not only do we have the 500 so people that live downtown, but we have the larger Houston's First Baptist Church community and the larger Union Baptist Association community in the city of Houston. So just through our church alone, we got about 20,000 members. This is all within the church, within Houston's First Baptist Church, HFBC. We have 20,000 members. So if I made a call to Yolanda Jones saying, hey, Houston's First Baptist Church would like to do something in the summer food program downtown, through its downtown campus, and we are zoned to your district, Do you think she would pay attention to us? I think she would, because it's much in her interest to do so, because she knows this figure. She knows exactly how much she won by. She knows how easily it can be swayed, because out of 21,500 votes, using rough math, that means 9,000 votes were already against her. These were for other people. So it only takes another 3,000 or so votes to swing the election in the other direction. And I come from a church representing 20,000 people. Do you think she's going to pay attention to what we're asking for? I didn't say she's going to give us what we're asking for. I didn't say she's going to help us. But nevertheless, because of this, she will pay attention to us. Giving you a preview of what's coming next week, when you study interest groups, one of the influence of interest groups is their membership. Now, Houston's First Baptist didn't gain its members so that it could go pressure public officials. No. But because of its membership, now it can use that membership to put pressure on those public officials to pay attention. Mayor Sylvester Turner came and addressed Houston's First Baptist Church last Sunday. Do you think he did that because he's a God-fearing man? Don't know. Maybe he is. But he also recognizes there are 20,000 members at Houston's First Baptist Church. Plus, it's connected to that larger Baptist Church Association, which is connected to the larger Ecclesiastical Association of Houston. I need to pay attention to those groups. So all I'm saying is, savvy public officials, savvy pastors, know this kind of information about their government officials, and they use it when appropriate to get attention to the ministries, to attention to the needs of their congregations. That's your task in this term paper. That's your task in this week's assignment. That's the lecture. If you have any questions, of course, call me if it's immediate. My office number 832-252-0726, or email me. All right.